This is a Wild Games Production podcast.
Welcome to the D&D world.
Meet you by the art room door, in a circle on the hallway floor. I made up a new map last night. It's got a dragon and a wizard fight.
I'm going to give them very minimal hints, and it's going to be something that they can't make a roll for. And they're just going to have to use their brains, and I'm excited to see how that goes.
It's my favorite kind of puzzle. I like puzzles where you actually have to use your brains and you don't just roll for the answer.
Yeah. It's a cipher that, when it's deciphered, is a riddle, and then they have to solve the riddle, and then the answer will open up like a secret door.
I like puzzles in D&D games for sure.
Absolutely.
I've never used them really. It's such a it's outside of my repertoire.
Good luck.
The Dungeons and Dragons. Wait, no, yeah, it is one of those. This is the Favorite Eye podcast about classic D&D. I'm one of your hosts, Crispy.
I'm one of your hosts, Carl.
And I'm one of your hosts, Courtney.
And as you can hear again this week, we are joined by a special guest. We have with us Jason Charles Miller. Jason,
what's up?
Woo! Jason, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I first was aware of you years ago. I saw a music video that you did with Felicia Day.
Nice.
And that's when I first knew you existed. But then I saw you championing Basic Dungeons and Dragons, which is a deep love of mine, and that's when I became a fan. Because anybody that heralds Basic D&D is a hero in my book.
Thank you. Thanks. Where did you first see me doing it? Was it on Foreververse or was it on Starter Kit?
Foreververse. Yeah, I saw you. I saw you running Basic D&D on Foreververse, and that was just fantastic to see it getting that kind of exposure. The only episodes of Foreververse I've ever seen were the Basic D&D ones, which is nothing against the show itself. That is my fandom.
Back to basic. Totally. The Red Book, the lawful, neutral, chaotic alignment. Like, everything is just like, basic, but
yeah.
Super fun.
That was my introduction to you as well, was actually Foreververse. It's like 2 years ago, I think it was. We got a smart TV, and I was flipping through like the built-in like streaming TV package that it has, and I saw Foreververse, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And then it just so happened to be I didn't know what Foreververse was. I was literally flipping through the channels, and I came across the show.
Awesome. Very, very cool. You know, apparently a lot of people who work at Best Buy like put the Geek and Sundry or Pluto channel on the TV at Best Buy. And so like I would get the most random text messages from like people I went to high school with or something that were like, dude, I just saw you on TV at Best Buy.
As we talked about a little bit before the show, I was also a fan of yours unconsciously because of your voice acting work in Final Fantasy XIV.
Great. Yeah. Well, that's when we know we're doing our job, I guess, is when people are fans of us, but they don't even realize it.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to be talking to Jason a little bit today, just about his interest in the hobby and sort of like his history with D&D. So I think we should start with the first question, because generally anytime we have a new guest on, we always ask some variation of this question. And
okay.
You want to fire away?
Yeah, so Jason, the first question is, how did you get into RPGs?
It was kind of a combination of my cousin and my neighbor. So my cousin, who's like a year older than me, first introduced me to D&D when I want to say I was like 8 and he was 9. And we made my character, and I was so proud of him. And my cousin is a ruthless DM, and within like 10 minutes, he had my character naked on the street, stripped of all of his items and money. So then my neighbor and I used to play on the bus. I grew up in rural Virginia, like out in the woods, and so our bus ride to the nearest school was pretty long. It was like 45 minutes or something. And so you had time to kind of get something going in the back of the bus. So, from, early elementary school, pretty much throughout my life, I've been playing D&D. As we were saying a minute ago, I started with basic and just sort of have tried and dabbled in every edition that's been out. And really, I do love 5th edition because I think that it sort of refines everything that sort of has ever been in the D&D universe and puts it all together. But my heart will always be I'll always have a basic heart.
Well, that leads us right into our next question, which is, what is it about basic that sticks with you after all these years?
I think I spent so much time reading the rule book that, I can still see the artwork. The first one that comes to mind is the female fighter holding her sword on the equipment page. As a young boy, I spent a lot of time looking at that picture.
Morgan Ironwolf, world famous.
Yeah, Morgan Ironwolf. Exactly. And so I guess it's just that it was a gateway to another world. And so that will always stick with me as a fount of creativity for me, So that's the best way I can describe it. I mean, I never really thought about why it holds a dear place in my heart, but just thinking about it, that's got to have a lot to do with it. It's just the fact that it was the first one that I ever had.
That's such a great reason to stick with it. I'm reading your IMDb page as you talk, and like, you were Guy in Street Fighter 4? What the heck, man?
Bushinryu would be my quill.
What the heck? This is the best day ever! So you've run B1 a couple of times and recorded game sessions and video series. What is it about B1 that makes it hold a special place in your heart? B1 has it all. I mean, you're going in an underground fortress. There's like the weird mushroom garden area. There's like the weird room with like 37 pools of different things you can drink. I love the pool room.
Yeah. There's, it's literally like everything about D&D is crammed into that dungeon. I mean, and literally crammed. Like you can't go into a room without there being some epic thing happening. So, when we started the show Starter Kit, well, first of all, when I ran that adventure with the Foreververse cast, that's what really kind of sparked the idea for Starter Kit. So when we did Starter Kit, I'm like, I want to run B1 again, modified for 5th edition. And someone had actually modified it for 5e, and my friend Christopher Lindsay, who's a VP at D&D, was able to get that for me, and we were able to use it in the show, which was really a cool, fun thing to do.
Were you guys using the Goodman Games re-release and update? Was it like a big, thick pink book?
Well, we just had a PDF of it, so let me see if it was Goodman.
Into the Borderlands is the name of the actual book.
Well, that's B2, isn't it? Oh, I know what you mean. They took B1 and B2 and called it Into the Borderlands because it had
both, yeah.
It had both in it. That's right. Yeah. I think it was an early draft of that. it hadn't been published yet.
Okay. That's pretty neat. That's a neat perk.
Yeah.
So do you still play or like to play classic D&D to this day, or is it just a once in a while trip down memory lane for you?
It's really just a once in a while trip, mainly because of time. You know, I have like one campaign that I'm a member of right now. And then everything else that I do is usually broadcast. So it's just literally time that I have to spend on all the things that I do. Having a Saturday afternoon open or something to just get some friends together and play basic D&D just isn't in my life. I mean, especially now, but even before. So like, I was in the middle of an in-person campaign with a bunch of friends, and then right now I'm in a different campaign that we're playing over Zoom once a week. And then it seems like almost every week I'm involved in some sort of online charity or
people bugging you to be on a podcast, that kind of thing.
Right. Rescheduling it like 9 times. It's great. It's great.
D&D. I gotta play D&D. My schedule's full of D&D right now. I have no time.
Right. It's like my schedule's so full of talking about D&D or performing about D&D or doing some on D. I can't actually play D&D. So
the blessing and curse.
Right.
I understand.
The monkey's paw curls another finger.
Right. Very true.
It's like a flashback to 9-year-old Jason in Virginia, just being like, "Man, I wish I could make D&D my job."
Yeah. Your wish is my command, and the rest is history.
So, when you were playing BX with the Foreververse crew, how receptive do you think they were to those rules and sort of, you know, the gonzo-ness of B1 when you ran it for them?
They seem to really love it. It was supposed to only be a one-off because Ivan was the GM and for Foreververse, but he was also in charge of Tabletop Day, preparing for that. And rather than have to prepare a dungeon every week, I took the reins, which was only supposed to be for 1 week, and then it turned into 3 because everybody was having so much fun. What I think is super crazy about Basic is that, you know, clerics don't even get any spells till level 2. So I had to gear up our cleric with at least some healing scrolls because I was brutal. I wanted everybody at level 1.
Mm-hmm. I'm having the same experience, actually, with a game I'm running tomorrow where I'm taking some people who, you know, are like massive 5e fans, and there's only 2 of them, so I have to pull my punches a little bit, but to beef them up, I gave them a couple extra abilities, and I ended up giving the first level cleric like a lay on hands kind of thing. So he has like a tiny little bit of healing. You can send your hate mail to questions at Save or Die.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, character death was a normal thing back in the day. Like, that's why people talk about, like, oh, I had this character, you know, Schlipplblock the Brave, and he was my character for 30 years. I'm like, I don't have any of those memories because I played basic D&D and all my characters died. Okay, like, so I don't, you know, I've got a wide variety of characters that I've played over the years, only because mainly they all died.
Yeah, he was my character for 30 minutes, and then he got killed by a skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've run basic D&D, and then you've run 5e using a basic D&D module. Do you think there are rules or ideas from 5e you would pull into basic D&D, or vice versa?
I probably, okay, I don't know if I would pull anything from 5e into basic, but I might pull, for example, the more loose idea of alignment in from basic into 5e. When Satine hosted GM tips, when I was a guest on it, our subject was alignment, and people have, a lot of people don't even use alignment in 5e. Like, it's definitely an optional thing. I still think alignment's cool just because I grew up playing with it, but I might pull the looser rules from that into it. That's one thing I can think of off the top of my head.
How do you think like morale would play out in a 5e game?
That could be interesting. Yeah, and that was based on like a 6-sided die, wasn't it?
Two. So you have a bell curve.
Right. Yeah, that could be cool. Yeah, combat in basic was pretty wacky too. And then like the whole wandering monster chart, I think that's something that the wandering monster chart just needs to be around for everything. Like, the best laid plans can always be foiled by good old wandering monster.
Or if they're not going as quickly as you want, or they're like trying to really game the system. And it's like, all right, well, now bugbears come out and they kill you.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I think what it is, talking about gaming the system, right? Like, you've got a whole group of people that grew up playing MMOs, right? And so they're so used to maximizing their character in every aspect that with D&D, it was kind of like, well, I'm a fighter with a strength of 8. I guess this is what I'm doing, because depending on how your DM, how strict your DM was, you might have some crappy ass stats and just have to go for it.
I think I haven't played 5e in a little while. Like, I still like it. It's still a good game. It's just every character started just feeling the same because we would always do like the array for stats.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like, I was like, man, I'm always like at first level, I always have like +6 or +7 to hit. And I always do like a D8 +5 damage. Like, I just always felt like every character I was playing, if I was playing a warlock, it felt the same as if I was playing like a fighter in 5th edition. And I was like, I don't know how to fix that, or necessarily if it's something that you can even fix,
Well, what it does is it enables people at first level to have fun right away. And I'm fully in support of that.
Yeah.
What you'll find is when you get to the higher levels, that's when it gets really, really interesting and cool about 5e. I mean, there's some stuff you can do, from like 7th level onward that is kind of mind blowing, and I think that it enables it. It's very well tuned for like 5th level and above, right? Like maybe 1 through 4, you're going to feel overpowered. But you might have, but that really depends on what your DM throws at you too. You know what I mean? So I get where you're coming from with that, but I think that they really, look, it was like a perfect storm for D&D, the company, in the fact that like they wanted to make the game more accessible, and then shows like Critical Role happened, where people just all of a sudden were fascinated with D&D and with role-playing games, and then you've got this system that really works. And you can beat a level 1 character and just jump right in and have a great time.
Some of my favorite gaming memories from recent years, and I'm not like 5e's good. Like, it went back to the roots, which I think is probably it's like that's I think why that's at least part of why it's been able to catch on like wildfire, is because in you have these people who haven't played D&D for 20, 30 years. Now they're coming back into it because they have kids, and it's accessible enough to where it has modern design sensibilities from everything they've learned from making D&D for 40 years. But it still it still looks like D&D. It still feels like D&D. And like, yeah, I think you're definitely right about like upper level stuff, because some of the best 5e memories I have were like, one shots where it's like, all right, you guys are level 9 in this one, or you guys are level 16 in this one, and just being able to throw like Balrogs and like vampires and all this crazy stuff at people.
Yeah. And their one-offs work great with 5e. I mean, look, I've got an adventure that I wrote that I run at every convention that asks me to run an adventure. It's a one-off, and it's everyone's level 1. But the way the rules are in 5e, like everyone has a great time, and I've never had a TPK so far, and most people make it to the final battle. Really? So
you're too soft of a DM then.
I've never had. Hey, but like
maybe I made a well-balanced adventure. Did you ever think of that?
Sure. Yeah.
That's against my D&D religion.
What is?
Balanced encounters.
Oh.
I was gonna say, I've never run a 5e game where I haven't killed at least one person.
I'm not saying everybody's surviving.
Yeah, but no TPKs. Sure, yes.
Also, when you're at a convention, right? Like, I want my players to have a good time, especially if like I'm running a game for 8 strangers. So maybe I'm soft with you might have something there, but I think maybe I just wrote a well-balanced adventure, but I'll run you guys through it next time. How about that? You can decide for yourself.
The best game designer ever. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. All right.
Hey, speaking of MMOs and D&D, you want to do your Driss Stewart voice for us?
Yes. Hello, I'm Driss Stewart. I've heard about you from Regis. Perhaps you can enlighten me with tales of your adventure.
So good.
Oh man, I don't play any video games, so this is a much different experience for me. Your voices are great. I bet they make great DMing, but I don't have the
voice is the best one.
It's great.
Thank you.
When are they going to give you the audiobook deal? When's that happening? Because I think you should talk to Bob Salvatore. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I met Bob a couple years ago at Comic-Con, and he knew that I was the voice of Driss in Neverwinter online, and we talked for a couple minutes, and he was very cool. But yeah, I mean, it'd be great. The way video games work and so many other things work is like each production company has their own cast for different things, So I'd love to do the Driss audiobooks. I just don't even know how to campaign or audition for it, or I'm sure there's already somebody for it, Yeah.
I'm sure they're listening to the podcast.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, the publisher of the Driss novels definitely listens, right? Without a doubt.
I can only imagine.
Look, we had Tracy Hickman on the show a few times.
A few times? Nice. Yeah. Wow. I'm in good company.
Actually, since, it was Forever versus Through Geek and Sundry, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as we all have established, you're the best game designer in the world. We were actually featured in a Geek and Sundry article a few years ago of top 5 expert level Dungeons and Dragons podcasts to listen to. Yeah, and our episode with Tracy was actually the one that was highly recommended.
That's amazing. I'm sorry that I missed that. Why didn't you lead with that when you were messaging me on Facebook Messenger?
We don't have a good marketing team.
I dropped the ball.
And it's mostly me.
That was before I was on the show, so I didn't lead with that.
Maybe I wouldn't have rescheduled it 9 times. Only 7.
Oh, man. These are good. These are helpful. Like, I don't know the entertainment industry, so, like, I'm taking notes.
So, Jason, how has growing up playing D&D shaped the path that you took in life? And has there been any part of it that led you down the career path you're on now?
Totally. I mean, I can tell you directly a couple of things. So, one, I was at a Shishi Hollywood party 10 years ago, at least. And my friend Neil Strauss, who's a writer for Rolling Stone. He's written a bunch of books. He co-wrote Marilyn Manson's book, et cetera, et cetera. He wrote The Dirt, Motley Crue. Anyway, he was like, hey, there's this guy that works for me. He plays D&D. You guys should talk. So that led directly to, so that was a guy named George Rockwell, who actually we played a campaign together for years, and we're still in our in-person campaign, which is on hold for now. Through George is how I met Satine Phoenix, because when she was running her charity D&D game, which is how I met a lot of people that play D&D now, which is sort of here's what's really interesting is through voice acting is how I know Matt Mercer and Travis Willingham and Marisha and everybody else. Taliesin actually gave me my first voiceover job ever back in 2003. So the stuff that I did with Felicia happened completely separately than me doing all the theme songs for Critical Role. And so we all ended up at Geek and Sundry, which is kind of mind-blowing. But yeah, I would say playing D&D certainly led to a lot of different opportunities in my career. So not even like esoterically to say that like, well, you know, it expanded my mind creatively. And I'm like, no. Like it did. And all of that happened. But also just being a D&D player in Hollywood 10 years ago, where it was spoken about in hushed tones, and you couldn't say that you played D&D into a crowd of people, or they would just ridicule you. And I'm talking about adults. You know what I mean? Like no one wanted to admit that they played D&D for fear of ostracization or just being, I probably would have gotten kicked out of the party immediately. But anyway, just from like knowing the people that worked in Hollywood who actually played was like a huge thing that I think definitely helped my career. But in an organic way. It wasn't like I thought that would help with anything other than the creative process. Other than it working the parts of your brain that help you create better. But what I didn't realize was just that knowing other people that played D&D would just create business opportunities for me that I wasn't even really looking for. It just kind of happened. It's the power of the secret. Oprah was right.
So of any of your voices that you've done, I can only imagine you did voices for your characters when you were a kid growing up. So did any of those translate into characters that you did voices for professionally?
I mean, not necessarily, no.
Not directly.
No, not directly, but I think it certainly helped of just having that outlet of being able to become another character for a while at an early age. And role playing is improvisation. You know what I mean? And I think that helped a ton with just being comfortable doing that. So yes, but I can't be like, Glorp the Goblin, is what led me to book this specific role or anything like that. But I think just in general, yes, you could say that.
How would you encourage people who didn't grow up playing classic D&D, who might be fans of yours, to look into these older rule sets? What value do you think these rules have for today's players? And what do you think that 5e can benefit from the classic D&D design?
I mean, honestly, if you're looking to get in for the first time, that's what 5e is designed for. So if someone's just looking to play, I wouldn't confuse them with basic D&D. But once you've played a little bit, it's certainly fun to go back. And if for some reason, like, I don't know, like it's in your dad's bookshelf and the only set of rules that you have basic D&D, devour those things, because if you learn that, adapting to 5e would be very easy, except for, of course, Thaco, and armor class, which is really, I'm kind of glad that they corrected that, because it always was weird where like I have a -5 armor class. I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, I agree with them fixing that part of it.
Yeah, it's not a change that bothers me. In fact, it's a change they were trying to implement as early as 1983.
Wow.
They were
yeah, they just didn't think they could, right? But they'd revolt.
Right. Yeah. I mean, change. We fear change, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's one thing that I do love about early D&D, whether it's basic or AD&D, is that I'm kind of a big fan of the classic races that you could play. Like I'm not the one thing about 5e that I'm not into is I frigging hate Dragon. I hate Dragonborn as a player class, because look, in Dungeons and Dragons you can't be the dungeon and you can't be the dragon. Okay. I just feel like the concept of a Dragonborn is just so overpowered that even how the rules are with it, and I'm not a fan. I understand. Dragon, and there's one other thing that I have a huge bump. I tracked down who did this, and I know who did this that I'm about to tell you. And I'm not going to tell you who did it, but I know who at D&D did it. And when the next time, like when the quarantine's lifted and people are allowed to be in a room together again, I'm going to find this individual and I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. And that is this: lizard men speak Draconic. That's wrong. Lizard men have their own lizard man language.
Yeah.
But it was simplified so that if you speak Draconic, that you also speak lizard man. And I have a huge problem. huge problem with that. But I do love that you can play lizard folk, and I totally would play a lizard folk.
That's the kind of minutia fist shaking that I live for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I know who did it. I know exactly who did it. Because I asked around with my people who I know that work there, and I'm like, who decided this?
I feel the same way about kobolds. Kobolds became Draconic at some point too, and that's weird to me.
Right.
But like I totally feel you on the Dragonborn thing, because like you're saying, it doesn't matter how balanced it is in the rules. The concept of like this giant dragon monster being in your group kind of raises the bar of where the fantasy is set to. And when you start off at that fantastic a level, it's harder to be like, oh, we're scared of goblins because there's a 7-foot tall dragon person, right? Like what's the fear?
Well, yeah. And like, there's another thing too. Like, so for example, a friend of mine who recently caught the D&D bug, he was like, I made my first character ever in D&D. And I'm like, cool. What is he? He's like, he's a warlock tiefling. And I'm just like, that's your first character? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's like handing a fighter jet to a 5-year-old or something. Like I feel like you shouldn't, if you're a new player, like you shouldn't be allowed to play a warlock tiefling for your first character. It just seems so that's where like my love of basic comes out. And look, I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper. I'm not like everyone do what you want, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes you need to learn, you need to walk before you can run,
Creativity thrives under constraint is the saying. Like, my first character was like an elf fighter. Like, it was just real basic, just real bare bones. We didn't get to do anything because it was the introductory session. So it's like, all right, kids. So we were sitting with the seniors at lunch, and like, all right, yeah, you can play D&D with us, sure, whatever. But yeah, like.
But I think with teaching people, that's why I kept on Starter Kit too, even though it was 5e. I wanted to make sure that just sort of the basic classes and races were covered, so that it's not so overwhelming for new people.
It's easier to imagine yourself as a dwarf than imagine yourself as a tiefling or a dragonborn. There's a less steps mentally you have to take to picture yourself as an elf, or something that's a little bit more humanocentric.
Everyone kind of knows what an elf is, like,
and a dwarf, and a halfling.
You're not gonna know what a tiefling is,
right? Or a tabaxi.
I was just gonna say tabaxi. I don't understand what this tabaxi craze lately is. It's weird. It
goes in phases, right? It goes in phases.
Get a little fur affinity from that case.
That's all right. So we've talked a lot about Dungeons and Dragons. Obviously, we know you from your love of basic D&D. We were listening to your music just the other night. Me and Courtney were. With that music, you tour, and because of that, you have a new show called On Tour with Dragons. And I want you to just take a moment and tell us about that. We watched some episodes of it. I saw some basic D&D in that, which I was elated to see. I love basic D&D shout outs, but the show in and of itself is a wonderful idea.
Well, thanks. I went to the folks at D&D Wizards and I was like, look, I'm going to be on tour. I would love to do something where, I feel like the family-owned individual, independently owned game store is one of the last sort of pieces of Americana in the nerd world that's left, and so why not feature some of these stores where there's thriving gaming communities there. It's such a good thing for people to know about, and everyone has their favorite gaming store. And I just thought, look, I'm going to be in all these cities. Here are all the cities I'm going to be in. Let's see if we can film some of it. And I was really happy, and I met so many great people, uncovered some really great stories and histories. And for a layman's term, I like to just say, well, it's kind of like diners, drive-ins, and dives, but of game stores, and that's kind of how we did it. And they're bite-sized episodes. They're all under 10 minutes, and it just features the store. I usually interview the owner, the manager, maybe a community leader or two from the area. And, I love to give more attention to those brick and mortar stores. And we were going to release it in February, March, but then, things happened, and so everything was delayed. So I actually reshot the beginning of each show where we talk about how you can support these stores now, because some of them are open in a limited capacity. Probably by now some are fully open. But when we put the episodes out, it's like, well, this store is available for curbside pickup. This store has this store has that. Just because we wanted people to realize that they can still support the local store.
Yeah, it's an awesome show, and it's a great idea, and it's great to put some light on these companies that have a hard enough time without pandemics. Game stores, it's a hard market to be in, and anybody who runs a game store is doing it because they love it, because they're not making truckloads of money operating a game store. I know
they do because it's their love, and they would rather be there than anywhere else, and I love that. I mean, even one of the stores that comes to mind is Common Ground Games in Dallas, and a gay couple owns the store, and they're sort of like a beacon of a safe space for the LGBTQ community in Dallas. It's doing more than just making places where people can play games, is where people can go and feel safe, and that's kind of a rare thing too. I'm really glad that we're able to shine a light on that.
I haven't seen On Tour with Dragons yet. This sounds great.
What? Interview over.
Oh.
Click.
Well, we'd like to thank Jason Charles Miller for.
No, what were you
Carl,
saying?
when we talked about scheduling, he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna out you real quick, Carl."
That's fine.
Yeah, I just talked to D&D Guy Fieri, and I thought that was because you have a pretty crazy long beard. You have very distinguishing facial hair. And I was like, that's a weird thing to say, but I kind of see it.
Yeah.
Not that.
But now you get it. Now I
get it.
Yeah. That's cool. I'll take D&D Guy Fieri any day of the week. That's fine.
Yeah. Guy Fieri is awesome.
I've also recently gotten Goth Cowboy Dad. He called me that on Twitter, but they meant
Country Scott Ian from Anthrax.
That works too.
Yeah.
I actually have played shows with his wife, who is a country singer. Pearl, whose father is Meatloaf. So,
whoa.
Put all those pieces together. Think about that later.
Well,
I think that's it, right? Do we have anything else?
Well, yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Thank you so much for being here. But if you have anything else you want to talk about, just let us know.
Yeah, well, on the music side, a little bit. So I now, because tours have basically been canceled for a while, postponed or whatever, like probably be on tour again till 2021. I've launched my own Twitch channel, and every Monday night at 7 Pacific, I do a show called Miller's Music Mondays, and I play, and people tune in, and I'll play solo stuff. I'll play stuff from my old band Godhead. I'll play D&D stuff. I'll play covers. I'll do it all, and so that's been really fun, and it's just been like an outlet for me to continue to perform.
So is your Twitch channel on Monday nights, is it more like a jam session kind of format, or
yeah, like it's real loose. So I'll play a song, I'll talk to people during the song, people will ask me a question, I'll talk about that, I'll give like the history of this song, like, oh, this song was in True Blood and here's why, and so the Twitch channel is just my name, so it's just twitch.tv/Jason Charles Miller.
And then I have one final question. What is your favorite brand of domestic light beer?
Tough, man. One? Like there's not really a good answer to that, because I'm just not a big fan of light beer. And I barely drink, believe it or not.
I don't know if you're a comedic genius or if I'm a comedic genius. I was just trying to get you to say Miller Lite.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I thought you were like, I've heard this question 1,000 times. Miller
well,
Lite.
Yeah, usually people say it's Miller time or whatever. I get that a lot.
I was wondering why Crispy was asking such a specific question. Like, not just what's your favorite beer, but like,
what's your favorite
wow, this is very detailed.
I thought he found some weird corner of your Wikipedia. He's just confirming facts.
Right.
Wikipedia says it's Coors, actually. I don't know who edited that in.
Someone said PBR. I don't know.
All right. Well, Jason, thank you so much for being on the show. And like,
thanks for having me.
Cool. Like, man, like as cool as you want someone who is the voice actor for your favorite like fantasy character. This has been a good day for me.
I'm glad, man, because a lot of people are not having a lot of good days right now. So I'm glad that it's a good day for you. I appreciate that. That's great. So,
and my favorite Final Fight character. Like this. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well, I will say this: I'm under a couple of NDAs right now. Well, I always am. I've been working a lot lately, and I can't wait till you see what I'm in next, because it's probably one of the coolest roles I've gotten so far as a voice actor. So I can't wait to announce it.
Awesome.
And you'll know it. You'll know it when you see it. That's all I got to say. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
Being here.
All right. Thank you. Have a great night.
Take care. All right. And once again, thank you so much to Jason Charles Miller for being on the show. Courtney, we have some emails this week. Why don't we go ahead and read that first one?
Yes, we do. Thank you to everyone who sent us in some emails. This one says, "Hello, dear Sodders. I'm a player who cut his teeth on the nightmare known as D&D 3rd Edition. In time, I discovered Castles and Crusades, the OSR, and the older D&D RPGs. Regrettably, I can't seem to find people to try all of these great games. I have to say, I am a big fan of the podcast. Your wit, maturity, and intelligent discussions are always welcome. I hope you are all right, both in body and spirit, and wish you survive this horrendous outbreak without damage. So for this time, when all is good and hopefully you are able to have other discussions on this podcast, I'd like to request a discussion on the subject of Gaz 13, the Shadow Elves. I am in love with this underground elves. I'd take them over the drow any day. I'd love to hear your impressions of them. Stay safe, and God bless you all. Atanis.
Much Atanis. We do plan on getting through all of the Gazetteers at some point. I think we were actually, before this show, we were going to do the next one, but then we got this great opportunity to have Jason on the show, and we decided to go with that. But yeah, can I hog the air? I'm sorry, for like a couple minutes.
Sure.
So I'm running a BX game tomorrow from the time this is being recorded, and I decided to put it in Mystara, and man, I'm loving Mr. Welch's like video series. For if I have to, without reading a 96-page gazetteer, if I need to convey information to my players about stuff, I will just watch his video on the subject. The Shadow Elves are one that like I haven't had a lot of call for yet, so I'm also interested in learning more about them.
Yeah, we keep hearing that the Gazes get better as you go, so I'm very excited. I'm especially excited to get to the Halfling one. We're really close, and it's just right around the corner, so I want to read more about that one because it's one we used when we were kids, and I never read it, but my mom used it actually in a game we played. So I have these kind of fragmented memories of it. So we are going to get through all of the Gazetteers. That is definitely the goal.
I would just say I know nothing beats getting together, face to face to play them with some new friends or old friends, but try and find a game to jump in online. We played some games online this past weekend, and it was a new experience, but it was a lot of fun. So maybe even though you can't get together face to face, or that you can't seem to find anybody in your local area that wants to play these games, I'm sure that you can find some people online to play with you.
Mm-hmm. There are Facebook groups for that. There's an old school group finder group that's pretty popular. I think you're in that one with me, Carl. And then there's also like a BX D&D Facebook page. I know Roll20 has forums for recruiting gamers to play over the internet. I assume Fantasy Grounds probably also has that. Or different forums. There are definitely ways for you to get a game going. It may not be face to face, but Zoom is pretty great. And one thing I've been using a lot lately for work, but I think it would be awesome for a D&D game, is Microsoft Teams, actually.
Yeah, and I we talked a little bit about it on the show prior. I ran a community game for Save or Die listeners, and that went really well. I plan to do that again. It's nothing scheduled this time, but keep an eye out on the Facebook page, and I will post when I plan to run my next listener community game.
Yeah, those are always really fun. But yeah, so hopefully that gives you some resources to look into to get a game going. Also, you could always just have your friends in your area be like, hey, I want to run something. Would you guys try this out with me? And try to make it, non-committal, but 3.5 and 5e games are kind of a dime a dozen online. So you running a BX game or a Castles and Crusades game even, that's going to be something kind of special. That'll be a unique experience, and you could probably leverage that as like a selling point for your game.
Well, definitely want to say thank you for writing in. We're ecstatic that you're enjoying the show, and keep listening. We'll have some great stuff coming to you. No pressure.
Do we want to jump into the next one from DM Kojo? Doritos Mountain Dew Kojo?
That sounds so good right now. All right,
actually.
All right, so we have an email from DM Kojo. Crispy.
You missed your cue, Crispy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just patch this in. Double mint Kojo.
He writes, Dear Sodcasters, based on the title of the episode, I came into this adventure all fired up, but I think it was a great episode.
So we should note that he's speaking of the...
He's angry.
Yeah, the reason he's angry is he's speaking about the... Goodness gracious, the myth of old school exceptionalism.
Yeah. All right. Based on the title of the episode, I came into this adventure all fired up, but I think it was a great episode. I've never thought of old school gaming as exceptional, but do recognize that there are definitely differences in the approach to the game and the play styles. I think that the early games were not as definitive in how people should game, and I think that led to as many different styles as you had gaming groups. I do think we older gamers reminisce about how our games were, but I suspect that our games were not necessarily exactly as we remember either. I think that the more people that play RPGs, the better, and I don't get bogged down in edition wars or take issue with different games. I believe they all have something good to offer, and that if you are having fun, that is great. Also recognize that not all games or editions are going to be the best fit for my personal play preferences, and that is okay too. For example, I like character development to happen organically as the campaign unfolds, so my players roll stats 3d6 down the line, 4d6 drop 1 during moments of weakness, and play... Sorry, that made me laugh. Alright, and play what they can make from that. They don't come to the table with a character concept, but it seems like many contemporary games focus on players building the specific kind of character they want. Neither way is wrong, just two different approaches. I think the biggest thing that gets me fired up about gaming discussions in this vein is the conceit that 5e and other modern RPGs are better because we've had 40 years of evolution in gaming mechanic design. I personally think that it is a bunch of bunk. Newer doesn't by default mean better. There have been interesting changes over the years, but I don't see them as better or worse, just different. But yet I get the vibe from some younger games, such as kids in my school's gaming club, my son's middle school friends, and some posters in 5e social media groups, that they think 5e is better overall to older editions, and I disagree. The perception that old can't be good is foolish. What this all boils down to for me is that there are lots of games and lots of ways to game, and you just need to find what is the best fit for you. I'm sure 5e is a great game. I have all the books but never played, mostly because every time I sit down to read the player's handbook, I quickly get the feeling that this game is not designed to be very compatible with my play preferences. I could strip out what I don't like since it is very modular in design, but then I might as well just play older versions of D&D. Finally, I wanted to point out that I do recognize that the earlier editions did suffer from some organizational challenges. I think that one of the great things about the OSR movement and the retro clone games that are coming out of it is that we now have some games that have the feel of the old games, but benefit from some streamlined organization. Old School Essentials is my current game of choice for just such a reason. Anyway, great episode. I love hearing from John Peterson. His knowledge in the subject is always impressive. Thanks, and keep up the great work. DM Kojo.
Misete Kojo.
All right. So lots to unpack.
I agree. I think with 100% of everything he said.
Well, one of the things that I want to point out is in no way did I want people to get the idea that I was saying 5e was better than basic D&D.
I got like the whole like 40 years of evolution in game mechanic design. Like I had brought that up earlier, but like I don't know. It's like you have like a 1960s like muscle car. That's BX D&D to me, and then like 5e is like a sedan.
Well,
it's like I think a Honda Civic, the Honda Civic of D&D RPG, right? Like you could soup it up. Honda Civics, you know, they're the Tokyo Drift car, right? But also it's reliable, it's easy to fix, it gets you where you're going. You know, when I wanna have a joyride, I'm gonna get in that muscle car. But you know, like I said in the last email, 5e games online are a dime a dozen. You could open your door and find a social media post for a 5e D&D game.
Well, I think part of that is not so much evolution in game mechanic design, but evolution in game mechanic representation, which is kind of what the OSR is doing that he mentions below. It's become apparent the way that these are digested, and and I think we really got there in the mid 80s. I don't really think it took us that long as gamers as a whole. Obviously, I'm speaking of the community of RPGs, not just my own experiences, but I think we got there around 83, 84, right? I mean, like that those representations of how to play that came in the red box, I feel like that still holds up as one of the best ways to learn the game. So, you know, I don't even think it took 40 years. I think it took about 10, and we were there.
John Peterson say by like 1978 they basically had done everything that you could possibly do with original D&D?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would quote him saying that, but
he said something to the extent of that. I'm paraphrasing. I mean, like, you know, we figured out ascending AC in 1983. It's just we couldn't implement it yet.
Yeah, that's hearsay. I heard Frank Minzer talk about that at a North Texas, that they were going to do ascending AC for the red box, and they decided not to because they didn't want it to contradict the AD&D rules. They wanted when that change to happen for it to happen with both.
When he was talking about a lot of people come to the table with their characters like already planned out and then kind of roll to make it match their character. That made me realize I feel like almost every game I play, like I kind of pick. Well, I mean I do like dwarves, but I feel like I stick with them because they are almost like my comfort zone. Whereas if I was rolling straight down the line, I might not. It might encourage me to branch out and not just stick to my comfort zone on character creation.
I like the down the line method, but I do think that I think you have to be upfront with that if you're going to do that with today's gamers. It's super fun. Like I don't if you've never done it before, do it. Just be like, I don't know what I'm going to play, and throw a bunch of dice on the table and be like, guess I'm a this thing.
Yeah, I remember running Adventurers League for 5e at a local game store, and for one night, I ran Redbox D&D for everybody, and we rolled 3d6 down the line. And some people loved it, and some people really disliked it. And one person who had been an old school gamer for a long, long time, who was in my group, said, you know, creating a character is fun, but rolling 3d6 down the line is like being born. And I think there's something to that. Like, just like you're seeing what's being created in front of you. You're not necessarily creating it. And I use pre-gen so much these days. Like, even for, like, if I run Swords and Wizardry Light, which is the simplest, you know, old school RPG there is, I would say, that still manages to feel old school to me. I still use pre-gens for that, and it's as quick at character creation as you're probably gonna get. So.
Yeah, man. Like the whole game is on a double-sided laminate, like cardstock sheet.
Yes, I understand, but I still use pre-gens for that. So I kind of rob people of that experience a little bit. So maybe I should start going back to 3d6 down the line and let them be born.
I wanted my players for my game tomorrow to do 3d6, but like immediately I was like, do you guys want to play D&D? One of them was like, I want to be a magic user. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to throw that out the window. But when we were talking with Jason on this episode, I was like, man, I hate 5e characters. Like when you make them with the array, it's so boring. It's just like every character. It's like, all right, I have +7 to hit. I do a d8 +5 damage. I have 14 hit points. It's like every single one of them are like that.
Well, you know, I think a lot of times when people play 5e, they rely on those type of averaging metrics, and I think 5e would be more fun to me if I just rolled hit points, rolled.
It is
stats.
though. It like 100% is.
Yeah. I mean, I see nothing wrong. There's no reason why you can't take 5e and pull in these old school concepts. I mean, it is a malleable enough system. I don't think it's as malleable as like BX or AD&D is, but it is still malleable enough. But I mean, he did it on his starter kit show he was talking about. They rolled stats on that show.
Yeah, but like what Dean Martin Kojo was saying, where he's like, you can modify. I've had this experience with 5e, and like I could modify 5e. It's got all of these wonderful optional rules that I could just make it play like BX. But at that point, I've done all this work, and I'm just like, I could have just played BX this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the thing. It's a nice. I think that one of 5e's strengths, I feel like we're talking way too much about 5e on this episode, but I think one of its greatest strengths is that, and one of its greatest weaknesses is that it's all things to everyone. So you could have it be, this could be the last edition of D&D, and like, they could Fahrenheit 451 your old school books and like burn them on a pile and then give you your standard issue player's handbook, right? In the weird totalitarian government I just made up in my head that is run by Hasbro, which is like they've amassed enough Transformers money where they're a mega corporation now. I don't know where my brain's going with this. Anyways, you could modify it to play like these other games, and that's great. But like also, you can modify it to play like these other games. So I feel like it's a little, the mixture is muddled a little bit. Also, big ups to our boy Gavin, Old School Essentials. I'm letting them use the advanced character options. I curated the list of like racist class stats. They had 17 choices to choose from. So like anyone who says that, especially with Old School Essentials now being out, that there's no choices in old school D&D and that's why it's bad, they're wrong. And I hope that they get shipwrecked on a desert island and have to eat like jellyfish for the rest of their life. But
might be a little extreme, but whatever.
Yeah. Just I just hope that I hope that they become the Green Arrow, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, like Old School Essentials, so good.
Yeah, that's definitely one that's benefited from that concept of how do people digest mechanics and where do they look in the book for those mechanics. It's fantastic. I mean, I think everybody should at least get the spell book for sure, because that just would be very handy to have at your table.
No, what a great email. That was a wonderful, thought-provoking email.
Also,
thank you as always, DM Kojo.
Der Meistersinger.
You left his last name off.
What?
Der Meistersinger.
That wasn't even in the format of the joke.
Der Meistersinger Kojo.
There you go.
There you go.
It was like a foreign language to me until that part.
That's because it was.
Yeah, I know.
Now it all makes sense.
Ah, goodness.
Doom Marine Kojo.
I also agree that having John Peterson is awesome.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
I would agree. I think I could just sit around and listen to stories and facts and tidbits all day.
Well, I don't want anybody to hear this and be dismayed. We have other emails. We're not going to read them on this show. We'll read them on the next show, but they've not got lost in the mire. We will get to your emails soon, but we just didn't want to go too long.
And I think that'll be our show for this episode. As always, you can write us in at questions@saverdie.info. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at the Saverdie Podcast. Don't forget to stay after the credits to listen to our AP Podcast segment. And that'll be it. This one's done. It's in the can.
Thank you so much for listening.
Peace out, Cub Scouts.
Are you enjoying the show you're listening to right now? Great! Why not head over to patreon.com/WGP and support that show for as little as $1 a month. $1 a month goes a long way to helping support the network of Wild Games Productions. Again, that's patreon.com/WGP. Thank you.
So, you like AD&D 2nd edition but no podcast to listen to?
Guess
guess what?
We got the cure right here.
I got a fever. And the only prescription is
the Thaco's Hammer Podcast.
You want me to put the hammer down?
Join DMs Glenn, Brian, Corey, and Full On Gamer as they discuss, debate, and review the world of 2nd edition AD.
Yes. Go here.
Give me a gin.
Yeah, that's DM Corey ordering drinks.
Sorry, girlfriend's getting gin.
Rules, modules, supplements, clones, everything 2E is fair game.
Someone lied to you, and there's an opposed roll, and they won, so you believe the lie. I know, but I don't, because I, the player, know that they lied to me. But you, the character, have to act like you take the lie.
So listen into a podcast where number 2 is number 1. The Thaco's Hammer Podcast, the best damn 2nd edition AD&D podcast ever. You'll find it on iTunes or at thacoshammer.info.
Hilda and Leothward are in the study of a wizard with the red shields. In this study with them is a pacified giant ape currently munching some almonds. They have just heard the voices of people deep in the dungeons. With the keen hearing of Leothward, he was able to pick out their voices as they argued about getting back to their study. Leothward, as you guys are deciding your options, you hear a shrill, "What? What's this? My snake is dead!" What do you do?
His snake is dead?
That's what he said.
Did we kill a giant snake?
Yes. The giant snake that killed Jan.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Which is ironic, because in the Resident Evil games, there's a giant snake enemy named Jan.
Oh, huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. That's weird.
Remember that super memorable encounter I DM'd with the giant snake?
You know, Carl, that was a while ago.
4 years ago.
It's not like a reflection on you. It was just like a while ago.
If I look at these books on the table, can I tell that they're magic or spell books? Like, I get I can't read what spells they are, but do I...
They're definitely spell books.
They're definitely spell books.
And they're huge. They're like 3 foot by 2 foot giant books.
3 foot.
It's a big book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's... I mean, if that guy owns the snake that killed Jan, I think we're entitled to financial compensation.
I think we need to grab these books and go.
Let's grab the books and book it.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're grabbing these giant books. They're heavy. Whoever's carrying a book is not going to be able to do anything except carry the book and run. You're not going to be successfully fighting or anything like that, casting magic or anything like that. So who's carrying the books?
I'll carry a book.
Cooper will carry a book.
I was saying somebody else.
Okay, so Cooper has a book, you have a book, and you're running down the stairs. Once you pick up the book, the ape kind of freaks out again.
Do you have any more almonds?
But it's not like anger, it's just like almost fear. Like almost like, you're not supposed to do that. Don't do that. But, you know, you're booking it. You're running down the stairs, and we're trying to get out the front door. And you know what? They're just running up their stairs, trying to get back into the tower, worried about their giant snake. So I think we're just going to make this a die roll and see if you get out of there before they get up. So let's decide what that die roll is going to be. What if we just roll a single D20 for your group and a single D20 for their group? That seems...
But let's keep in mind, we're running downstairs and they're running upstairs. It's much easier to travel downstairs.
Also 5 of you that have to get out and only a few of them that have to get up. So let's just see. Let's just make it a... I mean, because the other option would be I let you all roll. But I think it should just be... let's just roll... Courtney, why don't you roll a D20? I'll roll a D20. And whoever rolls highest wins.
Oh, jeez. If anybody wants to send me some dice... I rolled 11.
I rolled an 8.
Whew.
You guys make it out of the room, carrying the books into the streets of Manubria. Right before they come up into their trapdoor, into their home. And you kind of hear a brief, maybe like holler, like, "Hey, get up there!" And they go to the second floor looking for you. After you're traveling quite a bit, running away from the tower, you hear, "Ah, curses!" And you are now in the city streets of Manubria, carrying two very obvious giant books. And you are just leaving the earshot of a very angered magic user. Where would you like to go? What would you like to do?
Do we know where Jan lived? Can we go to Jan's house?
Good question.
Yeah, Cooper knows where Jan lived.
Or we could go to Phineas.
Finian,
thank you. I was thinking Phineas and Ferb for some reason. What do you think, Courtney? Like, where do we go?
Is Phineas the guy who sent us to look for the books?
Yeah.
Okay. Finian. Which one's closer? I kind of say we go to Finian either way, but because we're not going to know if the book is the one he's looking for or not.
Leah Thward could probably figure it out with a spell.
But he'll have to rest and prepare a different spell.
Mm-hmm.
We could take it to a sage, I guess, and see if, like, he can decipher it.
Is that safe?
I don't know. I mean, we already did the deed,
Well, I just didn't know how wanted this book was. Like, if we took it to a sage and they realize that it's the Book of Xenopus, are they going to lie to us so that we give it up to them? Or are they going to... Like, I don't know how wanted this item is. Obviously, it's worth money to...
I mean, like, we don't even know if it's the thing.
Well, right. But assuming it is, all I'm saying is I trust no one.
Cooper says we better make a decision fast and get off these streets.
Let's take it to Finian.
Well, if we just take it to him like, we found it.
We're just be like, hey.
And he's like, this is a cookbook. And we're like, oh, we thought we found it. Like, sell. Try and sell it.
We have some apologies to make.
How much would you pay us for this book? Okay, so yeah, let's take it to Finian.
All right. You approach Finian's tower in the city of Manubria, and he greets you. And I gotta try to remember how to do his voice. And it was old, but also kind of cranky, but not evil.
He was like, "Hey everybody, it's me, Finian."
Yeah, that was right.
I'm a wizard.
That was quick. You're back so soon.
Really? Because it seems like it's been months, if not a year at least.
Very strange. You found... What did you find?
Well, obviously, it's the Book of Xenopus.
Which one?
It's
Volume 1 and 2?
Let me look. Sit him down. And he clears space on his table for you to put the books down.
I put my book down.
Yeah, Cooper will put one down too, and he looks them over and he does some incantation and peers through the text and looks up at your group and says, "These are not the Book of Xenopus."
What?
These are spell books. Where did you find these?
In the Tower of Xenopus. Kind of. In the Tower of Xenopus's annex? I'm just going to tell him the truth.
Be more clear.
I'll just tell him the truth. That we went through the ruins, through the dungeon, and ended up in someone's tower. And thought maybe this is it.
Finian sits in his chair and leans back in his chair and he goes, "Oh, I'm not the only one looking for the Book of Xenopus. I see. Well, I appreciate the gift of these books, but you have put yourself..."
You said that we would keep anything we find.
Understand this. You have put yourself in a dangerous situation. But
we lost our friend. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. But I mean, this other wizard, he is also looking for the Book of Xenopus. Yes, and he's kept that from me. The wizard Akamon has been here for quite some time. I always expected he was up to something. I now see that he's going down into the dungeons himself. Very dangerous for a wizard. Obviously, he wants to find this book before I do. Well, we won't let him. I'll pay you double my offered price if you get that book to me.
What about the matter at hand? These books that we have that we've shown him, how long would it take to read magic through them and decipher them?
I mean, you cast read magic, you can read them. Now, you cannot use them. You would have to copy the magical notations to your own texts.
I know they're gigantic books. Could you give me an ETA on that?
Well, it's a gold coin cost an ETA. I would say probably at least 100 gold per spell level.
And
that's generous for the BX rules.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of cash, so.
Finian has offered to you for you to leave them with him. Now, how much you want to trust Finian on that's up to you. But that would at least keep you from carrying around these giant books with you while you're on the lam.
Can I broker a deal with Finian?
You can try. What do you want to do?
Finian, I'm willing to let you have these books free of charge if, at your leisure or mine, come back and, over time, copy the contents of the books.
Just be sure to bring me the Book of Xenopus, and I'll let you copy any spell you want.
Is everyone else okay with that? I'm going to, probably should have checked in with everyone else first.
I mean, these are useless to everybody else in the group.
That's true. But, I mean, they could have gotten the monetary cost of it.
All right, yeah, that's fair. It doesn't bother anybody in the Red Shields.
That's fine with me. Sounds good to me, Leothard. Finian, any suggestions? Anything else that could aid us in our journey? Now that you know a little bit more about what we're up against?
Well, the longer he's without these books, the less powerful his magic will be. He will not be able to do the proper studying to recalibrate for the movement of the stars and the planets. The heavenly bodies will move, and he will lack the magical knowledge to redo his magic until he gets these books or replaces them. So, avoid him for as long as you can, and if it comes to battle, be wary. He will still be dangerous. And be prepared. He may have other magical tricks that you aren't aware of.
He does have a pet monkey.
What?
Oh. Yeah.
Sorry. Hold on. No. I want to get that clean. What?
In his home, he's got a. Was that like a white ape or was it just an ape?
I'm gonna say it was just an ape, just a giant angry ape.
Oh, would I even know what an ape is?
Sure. I don't care. I'm not for that. I don't know if there's any benefit for you to not know what an ape is.
Comedic effect, I guess.
But I mean, it's not like you're gonna be like, oh, let's just go up to it and hug it.
I try to circumlocute my way around describing what a gorilla is without saying the word gorilla.
Yeah.
So I'll explain, when we were in his home, before he came upstairs and we absconded with his books, he has caged in his study a terrifying ape beast. Though I think Hilda was able to get an in with him.
He did like almonds.
Well, that would be something else to look out for. I feel like my voice is all over the place.
I'm actually low on almonds. Do you have any I could carry with me in case we encounter him again?
He goes to his pantry and looks, and he says, "Oh, yes, I have some right here." And he hands you a bag of almonds.
Thank you.
I think that we should rest and heal up a little bit, and then see if we can go back into the dungeon through the original entrance we had gone through.
Yeah, resting here seems safe. Finian, is there somewhere here we could stay?
No,
Or?
no, you'll have to stay at the inn, I'm afraid. I do not pick up visitors. Good night, goodbye.
We can not bring back a book, too.
Well, then you will not get a reward.
Oh. Which way to the inn?
Cooper says, "Did you still want to try Jan's house?"
I guess we could stay at Jan's house. I don't know, it's gonna be awkward though if Jan has like a family, and then we have to be like, "Hey."
Well, Cooper would know.
As far as he knows, Jan lived alone.
Oh, that's sad. He didn't have anyone in the whole world. I don't know. Like, Ackerman may know who Jan is, or might be able to, like, I don't know, he's like a wizard, you know? Like, he might be able to speak to Jan and get information. Oh, crap. Actually, I want to ask, before he kicks us out, I want to ask Finian if he can give us any more information about Ackerman. Like, is Ackerman, is he, like, especially famous in wizarding circles?
Finian says,
"Oh, yes, Ackerman is somewhat infamous among the wizards of Moxtara. I'm afraid that he's not the person you would want to have against you. Not because of any special links of power. I don't mean to scare you. Simply because the links he'll go to get what he wants."
So generally, he's like pretty not a good guy.
No, I would not invite him to a dinner party.
Would you say that if things were to go unamicably, that he would not be missed if something were to happen to him?
Yes, I would say that was a true statement.
Does he have any sort of signature spell or like magical trinket that he's well known for that we should watch out for?
He says,
somehow, somewhere along the way, he has harnessed the ability to turn others to stone. But I've looked through these books and it is not in them.
That's odd, because the staircase that led from the ruins under the Tower of Xenopus into his home, there were a number of stone figures running. Were they running up the stairs to his house, or were they running away from his house?
Up the stairs towards his house.
Okay. So I say that version of things.
Victims, I'd warrant.
Do you know of any cures that might exist for petrified people? Is there any sort of way that we might be able to cure those victims?
Yes, such magic exists. It is beyond my abilities, but it is accessible. Someone would be able to cure them.
It's not in the book?
No.
Do you know who might know the answer? Like, do you have another wizard friend?
I could send ravens to some other wizards and see if it's within anybody's ability, but who are these people? Why are we trying to save them?
We don't know, but whoever they are,
Maybe they returned to stone because they got too close. Or they knew too much.
I will send some ravens, and I will let you know.
Be careful who you send ravens to. We probably don't want to attract the attention that we're looking into Ackerman.
I'll handle my business. I know what to do. I'll go.
All right, I guess we'll go.
All right. So where do you go?
Jan's abandoned house?
Or the tavern?
The tavern might give us more information. Possibly.
I don't want to ask around about him too much, because I don't want word to get back to him, though. He's the kind of mage who, like, he screams curses when, like, bad stuff happens to him. And, like, so that's not a good guy. I think, like, the longer we can elude him, so as his power, like, dwindles, I think the better, personally.
Is Jan going to be identifiable since we left him in the dungeon?
I mean, he was just bitten and poisoned by a snake. I mean, he is a dead body, but assuming somehow, some way, Ackerman knew Jan, he would still recognize him, I assume. And Jan's a pretty distinguishable person. He's a large man with the bushy red hair, and I mean, he's very, very it sticks out. He's not Joe Average at all.
I guess I'm just worried that if we go to Jan's house and he comes there, since Jan died in his dungeon from a snake. So it might be safer to go to the inn.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It might be, like, better to lay low and play in sight. Yeah, I think we're both voting for the inn.
Okay. Hilda, Leothward, and the Red Shields travel to the inn, and on the way there, they hear a familiar voice say, "Hello there, how are you doing?" And they turn and see, standing there, the ghostly apparition of Jan. And that's where we're going to stop for this episode. Please join us next time on Save or Die.
So we see Jan?
We see Jan's ghost.
The Save or Die podcast is a production of Wild Games Production, and it's produced for entertainment purposes only. The music used in the intro and outro is by Tripod and used with permission. Be sure to visit the Save or Die crew at saveordie.info for more information. If you'd like to support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/WGP.
Laugh at me, that's nothing new. It's always that way. Change all the rules to the game from what they were.